All right, let's get into it. Today, we're diving into the surprisingly dramatic story behind the invention of the train. You might think it's a straightforward tale, but it's actually packed with brilliant ideas, epic failures, and two very different geniuses who basically shaped the world we live in. And it all kicks off in a place you would probably never guess.
So here's a question for you. What in the world could possibly connect the gritty, dark coal mines of the 1800s to, say, the train you might take to work today? Well, the answer is pretty much everything.
Okay, so picture this. We're in the middle of the Industrial Revolution. Coal isn't just important, it's everything, powering this whole new world. But there's a problem. The industry is hitting a massive wall, facing two huge dilemmas that are grinding everything to a halt. So what was the big deal? Well, first, it was a logistical nightmare just getting the coal out of the mines and across the country. I mean, horse-drawn carriages? They just couldn't keep up. But the second problem was way more dangerous. The mines themselves were constantly flooding with water, making it almost impossible for miners to even do their jobs. They needed a powerful new solution, and they needed it like yesterday.
And that's where our first protagonist enters the scene, Richard Trevithick. He was a brilliant Cornish engineer, but he was also famously stubborn. Nobody really bought into his wild ideas, but in 1804, he came forward with this incredible machine he was sure could fix both problems at once.
And you know, the concept behind his engine was actually beautifully simple. You feed a firebox coal to superheat water. That water turns into powerful, high-pressure steam. The steam pushes the piston back and forth, and that movement turns the wheels. Boom! In 4 easy steps, the steam locomotive was born.
And get this, on its very first test run, this thing was an absolute monster. It hauled an incredible 10 tons of iron for almost 10 miles. This was a monumental achievement. It was proof that steam could move massive weight. But, and this is a big but, there was a catch.
Turns out, the engine was a victim of its own success. It was just too heavy. As the quote says, it literally shattered the cast iron tracks it was running on. And you can imagine, right? People saw this and were like, yeah, no, this is never going to work. The whole idea was immediately thrown into doubt. So after a few more attempts that didn't quite work out, Trevithick just gave up. He walked away from his locomotive, moved on to other things, and left this brilliant but definitely flawed invention behind. And for 20 years, that's exactly where the story stalled.
And that brings us to Act 2, and our second genius, George Stephenson. See, where everybody else saw a total failure in Trevithick's engine, Stephenson, who was a master builder, saw potential. He understood that innovation isn't always about having the first idea, it's about making that idea actually work.
Stephenson's genius was that he just methodically fixed everything that was wrong. Those brittle cast iron rails that kept breaking, swapped him for much stronger wrought iron. Needed more power? No problem. He just packed in more coal and added bigger boilers. He didn't reinvent the wheel, he just perfected it. And the result of all these incredible improvements was this machine, the Locomotion No. 1. This was it. This was the engine that was ready to prove all the doubters wrong and completely upend the world of transportation.
And oh boy, did it prove them wrong. In 1825, it powered the world's first ever public steam railway journey, carrying a mind-boggling 450 passengers. Just like that, the era of the train had officially arrived.
For this incredible success, George Stephenson earned a legendary title he holds to this day, the Father of Rails. I mean, people came from all over the world just to learn from him, and the railway boom just exploded across the globe.
The Stephenson steam engine was the gold standard for over 100 years. But that core idea of innovation, that constant push for more speed and more efficiency, that never stopped. And it has led us to some modern technology that honestly sounds like straight-up magic.
I'm talking about maglev technology. The whole concept is just wild. It uses these incredibly powerful magnets to literally lift the train up so it's floating just above the track. Then, another set of magnets propels it forward. By getting rid of the friction, these trains can hit incredible speeds. It's the direct descendant of that old coal engine, just, evolved for a new century.
Okay, but before we wrap up, let's just remember how totally revolutionary this all was. Which makes you wonder, what did the first passengers actually think? Were they completely freaked out by this new, unheard-of speed?
Oh, believe it or not, yes. A lot of early passengers were genuinely worried that the speed would make it impossible to breathe. And ironically, that very first locomotive was so slow it actually lost its first ever race to a horse.
And here's another fun one for you. The world's longest train station is in India, and it's nearly a mile long.
And hey, if you really love train travel, the longest route you can take without ever changing trains goes from Moscow to North Korea. We're talking a journey of almost 8 full days. That's a lot of time to appreciate just how far we've come.
And that kind of brings us to our final thought. The train's journey started with an engine that was too heavy for its own tracks and has evolved to vehicles that literally fly on magnets. It's an incredible story of progress. So it really makes you wonder, what do you think the next 200 years of innovation will bring?